Hey, what's up, guys? So, I'm going to be doing the weekly recap. These are going to be either stocks that I personally traded, people were watching, or some of the guys in the community were trading, and I'm going to review all of them. This is what you guys should be doing on the weekends because this is what's going to make you successful. Because it's going to show you, what's working, what's not working, and what you need to adapt to because the market is changing. And so, the first stock is ADN. I'm going to look up ADN. So, 2.2 million float. That's a red flag. So instantly, you know that if you do end up trading this, that it's half size because it's risky. It's got negative 9 million float. No SSR. I don't know if it had SSR on this day. Um, but then it's got low short float, low institutional ownership, and low insider ownership. It's also got 5 gaps and 3 closed red. And then if you look down here, there's another feature that I really like is, okay, so what does it normally do? Oh, shit. The blue is pre-market high. So, okay. So pre-market high, it sets a pre-market high. Then usually the gap is lower, and the high of day is lower than the pre-market high. Okay, so gap and crap, gap and crap. Looks like possibly a pop and fell at pre-market high, but it not a very high gap percentage. Over 50% is nice. Then this, okay, well, hell, it turned into a gap and extension, but this is back in 2022. And then another gap and extension back in 2022. Okay, so it's most of the, like 3 out of the 5 times it's a gap and crap. Okay, perfect. I know that now. The other thing to look at is average high of day. Okay, 11 o'clock is typically when it finds its high. The average high spike is 23%. Okay, so if it opens, it typically goes, like the highest is probably going to be around 22%, 23%. And then so you go back over here. Okay, cool. How's it setting up? You go down to the yearly. Okay, so cool. It does have overhead resistance. That's good. It's got levels that should act as support or as resistance. It doesn't have very high volume, so that's kind of a red flag. You want to see a higher volume because that means that there's higher probability that there's people that's stuck in the stock. Then, for me at least, I go down to the hourly. Okay, well the day. Oh shit! 1 second. No. Customize. Edit. 5 days. Add. Apply. My apologies. So, the day that we're looking at is back over here. Okay, cool. So, it has a gap up, right? Goes all the way up. This is one of my favorite plays. It is on the hourly, obviously. But this thing comes up. It does find a topping up here. And it breaks underneath this. The volume is much higher because this candle has hourly, right? So I'm looking, if you go to my desktop, I have the 1 minute where I take my entries on. I have a 5 minute, a 15 minute, and I have a daily. I want to see what the daily candle is looking like because for me, that's what allows me to stay calmer. I want to see, okay, well, look at this. It's got a stock that's shooting up. It's got a selling off. Opens, okay, a little dip. Doesn't really do much on this one, and then all of a sudden it rips through this level. It has another, decent wick. Opens, another decent wick. Okay, another decent wick. Then at the open, all the volume, it has a little tiny pop, and then it fails, and it just tanks down. And it comes back to these levels. that it starts trading off of. Then you can go to the 5 minute, do the same thing. This is how I end up trading because I want to see how much volume is going on the 5 minute. Like what is the patterns that are showing, and it also allows me to be relaxed because if you go down to the 1 minute, this is just sporadic. It's just all over the damn place, right? And so for me, it allows me to stay calmer, and I can look at things, and if I see something that I don't like on a higher time frame, then I say, hey, that might be a red flag and something to look into. So the next stock is going to be CGC. So this one honestly should not have been a trade at all. The reason for that is it doesn't have a gap really. It's also got really shitty volume. CGC. High float, which is nice. 10% short float, 13% institutional ownership. It does have cash though. It does have 10 gap stats, 6 closed red. But at the end of the day, this should have been a very, very easy stock to. Look at it. It's not trading with any volume at all. And even after the open, it's not trading with any volume either. It's just a grinder. It's just grinding up on low volume. That's not what you want to look for. I did take a good trade on this. I believe I got it in right here. I covered it down here or here. I can't remember which one I did. But at the end of the day, realistically, this is not a stock that I should have been watching at all. So I am going to exit out of this. Actually, no, I'm going to keep this here. We'll keep this here. And then the next one is SPPL. So SPPL, 5 million float, 3% short float. Low institutional ownership, but it's got a really high insider ownership. And people say that this is not a big deal, but dude, when 70% of the float is owned by shareholders, for me that's a red flag because it means most of the shares are locked up, and it's only got one gap stat and it closed green. So if you look at the one gap, it had a pre-market high. It wasn't a very high gap, and then the high was a gap and crap, but it still closed. It still closed green, right? If you go to the stock, it was just grinding up from 30 cents, up to $1.34. I can't remember exactly where I traded this thing at. I believe that it halted up. I took a trade, I believe, right in. No. It was right here because I took a trade right here. I topped out, like literally high of day. I did a FOMO trace. I traded right here, and I ended up cutting like just in the money. But realistically, this is not. It's not my setup. It can be, I do like these things that are up, from 30 cents up to $1.30. That's up a lot, but and like it was a valid trade trading here, and possibly looking for a fade. But when you start looking at the stats, like I said, 70% institutional ownership. That means 70% of that 5 million float is locked up with insiders. It's also got one gap and closed green. It's not ideal. And stock selection is everything. Then another thing is BNOX. Another one that's up from 18 cents. This is something that I've been noticing this last week. There's a lot of plays that were in that were right there. I believe I took this one. I think I took a loss on this. I think I took a trade here. I covered right here, and I instantly shorted again. And I wrote it down. If you look at the stats, 17% or 17 million float, 20% institutional ownership. It does have money. It's got 9 gap stats and 6 close red. So I mean, it's worth a trade. Plus, it's up from 18 cents, and it's trading at 60 cents. So it was worth it, for me. I can't remember exactly how I traded this one, but each one of these you want to start going back. I'll do this really quick. This is a little tip for those that have actually made it this far. Okay, well, what target did this hit? 5-minute J lines. What target did this hit? 5-minute J lines. What did this target hit? The first target. It literally just rode the first target all the way up. Okay, so 5, 5, 1, 5. 5. Holy shit! You start figuring out like, oh, okay, like this is getting hit more than any of the other ones. This one came up. I believe that I did not trade this one because this is another one that was 1 million float. I have no idea how much insider ownership. Yeah, it needs cash. And it's 5 gaps and they all close red. But if you start looking down here, once again, this thing starts gapping up. This has a pop and fell of pop and fell pre-market high, a gap and crap, gap and extension, gap and crap, gap and crap. Okay, so it's got one gap and extension out of all of them. It's got one pop and fell and then mostly gap and crap. Okay, so you know that it's probably going to either give you either a pop and fell, a pre-market high, or a gap and crap. This set up for a gap and crap. This is almost a pop and fell, but it didn't quite reach the thing. And yes, I am a stickler on that. So for me, and it's 1 million. It's 1 million shares. This thing did have an offering though, and you can tell it's trading 2.5 times its float. And all of a sudden, it just starts to tank. Why? Because each now, instead of having 1 million float, it's got 1 million plus whatever they were able to offer on this day. And so when you have more supply than demand, price goes down. And so they need a bunch of demand so they can sell their shares into. But then once the buying pressure, fades out, it's just going to tank down. Okay, well, this hit the 5-minute J lines. Okay. Wolf. Can't remember. I believe I traded it like right in here. Yeah, I did because I traded it like this. But at the same time, this is another thing that the reason I go back. This is another one that should never have even been on my radar. Why? Because it is trading with absolutely no freaking volume. Yeah, at open it ripped up. So I mean, the way that I traded it was beautiful in my personal opinion. At the very beginning, because this is exactly what I did. So this thing popped up here. I take a trade right there, which is perfect. I think that I traded this really well, and I believe I covered everything here. It went down to, once again, the 5-minute J lines. Holy shit. And then it rips back up. I think I took a cut here and a cut here again. So I gave back some of my profits, but realistically, this should never have been a trade. Why? Because if you go to a higher time frame, there's the only thing that even gives a possible signal is right here. And once again, this little gold nugget, if you guys are watching, okay, so it starts stuffing out there. Volume's much lower, okay, cool. So yeah, sure, take a trade right here. But when this thing holds, and it does like a little mini curl, dude, you're out, break even, and just, okay, it didn't work. You gave it a shot, and you're protecting your capital. That's the biggest thing. The other thing is I keep on forgetting to do this. Wolf. is a huge float. It's also got a decent short float, a decent institutional ownership, and a decent insider ownership. If you add all this up, this is a pretty big number. I don't want any of these to like. I don't want to add this all up and it to be a significant amount of the float, which this is, which is a red flag to me, which means I should not have been trading this. You know, yeah, it worked out the way that I traded it, but when you start doing that kind of stuff, I was only thinking about the money. And when you start doing that, that's what allows you to start getting your ass kicked. And that's exactly what happened to me this week, is because I sized up and I started getting greedy and I wanted more money. The next one is Foxo. $12 million float, low short float, low institutional ownership, and low insider ownership. This is what I mean though, like right here. Less than 1%, less than 5%, 6%. So there's 10% in total. I like that. That's what I'm looking for. It's also like low on capital. It's got 14 gaps. The thing I don't like very much is that this thing has got 8 that close red, 6 close green. You start looking at this. Okay, so this is a gap and extension. This is a gap and extension. Gap and crap. Like these are really nothing to even be acknowledging at all because, well, I mean they are 100%. So I mean, gap and extension, gap and extension, gap and extension, gap and crap. So what this tells me is, okay, dude, hey, I would say that if I was a betting man, this is probably going to be a gap and extension. What did it do? A gap and extension. I was not trading anywhere down here. I don't give a shit about these low price stocks that are up like 15, 20, like, well, this is not 15%, but like, I'm not going to trade for 10 cents. But when this thing starts getting up here, I actually believe that I missed this trade. I did miss this trade. I traded it. I missed this trade on this day. I traded it on this day. I killed it on this day. This thing popped up and I got in like right at the freaking tippy top because I was looking for. I wanted it over $1. I got in. I shorted it on the ask. I got filled, damn near the top, and then I covered. And it was a good trade. Then I was watching it the next day. It just tanked the next day, but then this day it shot up, and I was like, dude, here's another gold nugget for those that actually do the work. I was looking for at least this zone right in here. But when it started reacting the way that it did and started forming like a cup looking pattern, I was like, dude, this is going for $1. It got up here and I did not want to get in with big size up in here, even though, for me this is how I see it. I'm waiting for this thing to squeeze and just fucking rip people's faces off. Short on the ask, right above $1. But then this thing just tanked and it halted down. And I was just like, dude, that sucks. So I missed it. But once again, on both days, this hits the final target. On this day, it only hit the first target. Okay, so there you go. Arab. 7.75 million float, 1% short float, 11% institution, and 8% insider. Really low on cash, 9 gap stats, 5 closed red. You look over here, gap and crap, pop and fail, gap and extension, gap and extension, gap and crap, gap and crap, gap and crap. Okay, so mostly gap and crap. Didn't even have gap and crap. Dude, I remember this. But I took a loss on this thing. Right, I believe I actually took a decent sized loss on this because it stuffed up. I took a short right here at 5. I think I covered like up in here, which is 20 cents, which is way too big for my risk. I really screwed up, and then it did not give me a second entry because I needed it at least in this area, and it just double topped, failed, and just didn't look back. And so I was like, well, that sucks. Faded all the way to the very final target. Frey. Should not have been trading this one. It's got 115 million float, but it's got 10% short float, 35% institution, and 18% insider. That's a lot of the float is locked up. It's also got 5 gap stats, and they all, like, most of them close green. Gap and extension, gap and crap, gap and extension, gap and extension, gap and crap. But they close green. And it's just grinding up. I was literally just trading this shit. Like, I remember I took a trade like right in here, and I held it for like 3 freaking hours, and I finally covered, and I was just like, dude, waste of time, absolute waste of time. Then this CYNE. Sorry, this is a very long video, but really, I really don't think anybody's even gonna watch this, so really, it's for me. 2 million float. Low short float, low institutional ownership, no insider ownership, low capital, 10 gap stats, closes red most of the time. Okay, don't remember how I traded this, but once again, here, there, I fucking missed a beautiful trade right there, and goes to the 5-minute J lines. No, it doesn't. It goes all the way to the freaking. It faded all the way back down. ENSC. Another one. It's a low price stock. I'm really starting to fucking love these because it's up from like. Well, I think I traded it before this, didn't I? No, I didn't. 44 cents up around $1. $14 million float, no short float, no institutional ownership, and 7% insider. It's behind on cash. It's 50-50. Not exactly the best stats I want, but it's up a lot. They need cash. Oh, dude, I remember this. This one sucked. I missed this because I took a short right here. It stopped me out. I thought I was going to go to $1. I was going to slam it at $1. It didn't get to $1, and it just freaking tanked back down. Hindsight, in this moment, what I should have been doing is this. Okay, so I took a beautiful trade. I took a beautiful stop. This thing goes up. All right, dude, like it slams back down under here. Who gives a shit? Take a short right here, risking 5 cents. Okay, dude, like hold it. You take a trade, you're risking 5 cents, 92 to 75. That's almost 20 cents. That's a 4-hour trade right there. Who gives a shit? You're literally done. And it also just it did hit the final target. That's not ideal to me. It did go all the way back down, but. Then sell you. I got my freaking face ripped off on this shit. This thing should not have been on my radar. Why? Because it did not gap up. When it does not gap up, you don't trade it. It starts doing like a freaking midday range bullshit. It's curling on the 1-minute J lines, and it does a freaking just rips people's faces off. I scaled into this. I didn't have my stop in. I didn't do anything, and it just ripped my face off. I took a max loss on this because I was just being arrogant. At the same time, if I would have been just trading this thing smart and not trading the money and trading the setups, what happened? Okay, this thing comes up, it gaps up, it halts up, rips, halts again, double tops, slams down, volume's dying. Look at that shit. Okay, I mean, that's $4.62 to $5.22. and it gets to the 3-man J lines before market closes. 462 to $3. That's a huge win. That's the problem. You have to trade the setups. The setups make you money. The process makes you money. You chasing money makes you lose money. Then NCL, I took this one. It was a beautiful freaking trade. Pop and fell pre-market high. I got in right there, and I freaking faded this thing. I think I covered here, and here I didn't hold for the whole target because I didn't trust myself. I've been breaking the rules, and so that is the weekly recap. I did not trade very well this week at all. I was trading the money instead of the process, and if I would have just traded the process, I would have absolutely killed it this week. This next week, I am trading only the process. I don't give a shit if there is only one trade at this week. I need to scale things back. I'm also going to start to tracking my stuff, and I'm going to start sharing a lot more stuff. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do it, but I want to size way down. I want to start to figure out how I need to coach you guys on how to build your business, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I hope you guys had a good week. For those of you that actually watch this, I really appreciate you. Why? Because I'm putting a lot of work into this, and I don't feel like anybody's giving a shit. So if you did watch this, I really appreciate you, and let me know. Let me know what you need help with, because I'm here for you guys. This also helps me out a lot, but I'm here for you guys. So have a good one.